Hey, alright, nobody in here yet. I'm going to give a few minutes for everybody to join. Hopefully we get some people joining in here pretty quick. So if you're watching this after the fact, you might just kind of fast forward just a tad bit. Actually got one person joined already. Who is it? Barbecue Park Farming. Hey, how are you tonight? LPS. Yes, I do remember you. What do I call you? LPS? Is that good? And Isabel is here. Or do I call you Izzy? I don't know. You'll know who I'm talking to either way. And Tigress is here. Call you Jay. I will never remember that. I'm sorry. I'm terrible with names. So LPS is Jay Lee. I'm going to forget that. I'm sorry. I'll try, but I'm going to forget it. I'm telling you that. M&K Meadow Homestead. Hi, how are you? Thomas's Poultry Collection. Well, we got people coming in all the time now. You have the best name in the world, Barbecue Park Farming. Yeah, I do like that. That's pretty good. And Sierra Tucker. Hey. Well, unwell, huh? Well, again, I'm just terrible with names. I can't remember my own name half the time, so forgive me whenever I forget yours. I will forget for sure. All right, Farm and Hammer, good evening to you as well. All right, letting the crowd kind of gather. We got 9 people in here. Let's see, what's going on this week? I got new eggs in the incubator, and wouldn't you know it, it's probably going to... Oh, Doug Elgin, hi. Let's see, new eggs I put in the incubator this last Monday, a couple days ago, Monday. And of course it comes up that I've got to make another work trip, and I'm going to be leaving out next Sunday, so the day before they go into lockdown. So I'm going to leave my poor wife to handle locking them down, getting them in the brooder box and all that. She can probably handle it. If not, I've got a good video series she can watch on it and probably take care of that for me. So that's what's going on around here. What else? The grow outs from my last hatch, got them in the new hutch back there. I don't know if you guys can see it over my shoulder back there. Chair's kind of in the way. But anyway, the grow outs from the last hatch are in there. Going pretty good. Got a mix of some Jumbo Browns. I think you guys, if you've been on the channel for a little while, you probably saw them when they were just a couple weeks old. They're like 7 weeks old now, somewhere right around in there, almost 8 weeks somewhere. I can't remember exactly. And they're growing pretty well. Starting to get a little crowded in that hutch though. And I sold 5 of them for $25, and that basically pays for my feed costs. So pretty good deal. Got those more or less fed for free, so that works out pretty well. All right, we got a question here. You dropped a quail and it died. Oh, this is Raptor saying that. Dropped a quail and it died and you felt really bad. Well, that's unfortunate, but it happens from time to time. Don't feel too bad. It was an accident, and I mean, yeah, I know what she's saying. I've had those kinds of situations too. I had a quail die yesterday. One of my older ones, my breeders, just for no reason, a hen just up and died. No reason, no injuries, nothing. Don't know. Sometimes that kind of stuff just happens. Nothing to worry about. I've got black soldier flies colonizing under a colony. Is that what you call it? Colonizing? I don't know. Black soldier fly larvae underneath my quail hutch. Do a great job of keeping the droppings kind of composted for me. Keep all the flies out. Works great for that. But they also, whenever I have a bird die like that, I just chuck it down there and it's gone within 2 days. They just clean it right up. So that's working out pretty well for me. Farm and Hammer says, tomorrow's day 17. You can't wait to see quail hatch. Well, good luck with your upcoming hatch. Hope it works well. And Elias, I actually remembered your name. I just got done saying I never remember anybody's name, but I remembered yours. How are you doing tonight? Good to see you here. Richard Zielinski, hi. Average Fisherman, I like that name, the Average Fisherman. Hello, how are you? Bird Breeder from New York. We got a couple people from New York in here. And Sierra Tucker says, how do I get my grow outs to weigh 5 pounds by 8 weeks, no later than 12 weeks? I've been told breeding stock, but isn't there anything else? Well, unfortunately, probably not. As long as you're feeding them a high enough protein feed, and even that is probably not going to make a huge impact on that. But I try to go for over 16, 17% protein with my rabbits. Right now I'm feeding a 16% protein. That works pretty well. But they need the higher protein for the grow out. But honestly, most of that is going to be tied back to the breeding stock. And if you're I mean, That's really the best argument for getting purebred breeding stock. Purebred California, purebred New Zealand, purebred Silver Fox, something like that. You can mix them together, but the breeding stock, purebred, really makes a big difference with how fast they grow out. And I don't know this because I haven't experimented with it enough with Flemish Giants. But I had a Flemish Giant mix that whenever I bred, her babies grew out incredibly slow. It took like 14 weeks for them to get there. And I don't know if that's because of the Flemish Giant, because she was mixed, or what. But you might stay away from the Giants just because of that and go with more of a purebred. She had adorable babies, just soft and really cute, but they grew out really slow. All right, what else we got? Doug Elgin, is anyone else having issues with their New Zealands growing to weight slow this year? I haven't started my breeding season back up yet, but it's cooling off now, so it's about time to start it back up. Then again, I don't have any New Zealands right now, so I don't know that that's going to help you any. But no, I haven't had any problems with them, and I haven't really noticed anything like from year to year having problems with it. I don't know. Maybe somebody else can chime in and see if they're having problems. Bird Breeder says, when you're putting eggs into lockdown, do you place the eggs directly on the bottom of the incubator or place them in racks? No, put them directly on the bottom of the incubator. And you do that on day 14. So put them down directly on the bottom of the incubator. That gives the chicks time to kind of move around in the shell and get into hatching position. I've had them hatch out early in the quail rails, in the egg turner themselves, and they're okay, but really you don't want that to happen on a regular basis. They got a good chance of having leg injuries and those kinds of things. So bottom of the incubator is the best place to put. Nelson Del Rosario, sorry, I had a hard time with that name. Hi, you're welcome. Good, glad to see you here. All right, Helen Crane says, what's the best thing to feed rabbits? Well, in my opinion, it's rabbit pellets. You could do natural feeding with them, but that's a lot of work. You're going to have to be growing fodder and some of those kinds of things. And if you want to do it, by all means, do it. There's a great book out there, what's it called? Beyond the Pellet. Really good book if you're looking for natural feeding. It will tell you kind of how to do all that kind of stuff. But in my opinion, it's much easier just to feed pellets and hay. Try to go with like a Timothy grass hay instead of an alfalfa hay, because the pellets are mostly alfalfa based. But just get a good quality rabbit pellet from a local feed mill if you can find it. It'll be the cheapest way to do it. Try to get something, like I said, about 16% protein or higher, and you're going to be fine with your rabbits. Hopefully that helps. All right, I do this fish. What's up with you? C.R. Tucker says, I have Flemishes too, slow growth rate for me. Yeah, I wondered if that wasn't the case with Flemishes. I'm kind of assuming it is. Any of the giant breeds, I think, tend to grow out a little bit slower. And Bird Breeder says you have 80 eggs due to hatch on the 9th. Well, fantastic. Hopefully that goes well for you. Fireball Cool. Hey there, good to see you too. Will Brady says, what is the best ratio to raise for meat and fur? Oh, the best rabbit to raise for meat and fur. If you want both meat and fur, I think Rexes are hard to beat. I really don't. I don't really tan rabbit hides. I don't really worry about the fur too much. But Rexes are supposed to have the best fur, and that's probably going to be the best bet as far as meat, and not mini Rexes, standard Rexes, because mini Rexes are too small, of course. One thing you need to consider though is that if you're planning on using the fur, when you're butchering rabbits at 8 weeks old, the fur's really not the best quality at that point. They don't have their adult coat in yet, and it's not really that durable. It's really not used for much other than just like crafts and those kinds of things. You need to grow them out to adult if you really want a good fur yield. So that's just something to kind of consider from that. Yep, another day, another dollar. I know that feeling. Max the dog here is running around a little crazy, so if you see me a little distracted, as every week, he's out here just running around crazy. You might see him going back and forth in the background every once in a while. Right now, he's right here beside me. All right. Yep, he does have a Facebook group. Tracy Hedford says you just finished reading Beyond the Pellet. It's a great read, and he has a Facebook group. Yes, he does have a Facebook group. Pretty good guy from what I know. I don't know him personally, but everything I've seen, he seems like a pretty good guy. And I haven't personally read the book, but I know lots of people have. And from the things that I've seen him post, just the interactions I've seen, he knows what he's talking about. And he spent some time researching that. I remember when he released that book, and he was talking about it quite a bit. So I would recommend it if you're looking for a natural way to feed your rabbits and get away from rabbit pellets. Boy, I thought all the mosquitoes were gone with the cool weather, but not yet. Og209 says, you hatched your first quail like a week ago by watching my videos. Well, congratulations on your quail hatch. Glad that went well, and I'm very glad that my videos could help you out a little bit. All right. Thomas's Poultry Collection says, you have a question? Let's see. Bought a new coop, and it has a ramp going to the top hutch. Would my quail be able to go up the ramp into the top hutch? Would they be able to, and will they, are two different things. Yes, they're going to be able to. Will they? It's questionable. Probably not. Now, if you keep all their food up there all the time, then you might entice them to where they do start using that and going into that on a regular basis. But hang on a second, guys. I've got a hard dog. Max, leave it. Good boy. Sorry. So, sorry the dog distracts me every once in a while. He's a puppy. He gets into trouble all the time. All right, so where was I at? The ramp. Yes, it's unlikely that they're actually going to use the ramp on a regular basis. Quail are pretty much ground-dwelling birds. They don't really want to climb up into things, if that makes sense. But they might. I've heard people use those ramps, keep their feet up there all the time, and the birds get used to that, and they start using it on a regular basis. Yeah, cool weather. Yeah, Farm and Hammer. I don't know where you're located. It was like 90 degrees here last week, and then all of a sudden, boom, cold front hit. High in the mid-70s, lows in the nights in the 50s. It's pretty nice. Fall's coming for sure. And I don't ever spray my yard for mosquitoes or bugs or any of that kind of stuff. I just let them go. I spray myself. DEET is really nice to keep the mosquitoes off of me, but I don't worry about them in the yard, not that much. So Elias is saying, you've watched my video about, your favorite Christmas story. It was great. I hope you make more videos like this. You know, I need to work on I'm not the best when it comes to like vlog style videos and some of those kinds of things. I don't know why. I just have a hard time coming up with the topics and those things. I'm really kind of a teacher at heart. I have kind of the spirit of a teacher. And that's one of the reasons why I started this YouTube channel, is because I used to be a trainer in my job, and I was no longer a trainer, and I thought this was an outlet for me to be able to teach some things. So that's what I kind of started this YouTube channel as a way to teach people how to do things. But I've taught a lot of things, and I'm starting to run low on topics, so maybe I should start doing some more vlog-style videos. Give me some ideas on topics. Come back and let me know what you'd like to see, and I'll be happy to do them. I know that's asking a lot. That's weird, asking me what you want me to vlog about. But, yeah, that favorite Christmas story, that was one of my... that's a good memory I had. If you guys haven't seen that video, Christmas time's coming back up. You might want to go watch that. It was a pretty cool experience in my life as a young kid, and I thought it was nice to share. So I'm glad you liked it, Elias. All right, Tracy Hedford says, can you get the seeds from eBay to grow your own rabbit food? LOL, all shut up now. Don't shut up now, keep talking, Tracy. Yes, you could probably get seeds to grow your own food from eBay. You can get seeds from a number of different places to grow your own food. That is going to be one of the things that when you're growing food, you're probably going to want to stick with, let's see, barley. If you're growing fodder, barley, what would be some other? There's a couple of different things that you could grow there, but barley comes to mind as the most common. You might be able to find that as like a local feed mill. You don't need well, just check your local feed mills, your local farm supply stores. You can probably get it cheaper there. And fodder systems aren't that hard to set up. You can set them up on a rack in like 10, 20 trays, like regular standard nursery trays, and set it up on like a drip system where it runs down through one or the other. And all you got to do is put them with seeds, and you just rotate them out to where you have them going. And you have like 7 trays. So every day you're getting fresh fodder out, starting a new batch. And you just rotate them out. It's pretty easy to do. If I ever start doing fodder, I'll put a video together on that. But yes, you can get seeds from eBay if you wanted to. I would just check for local sources. I think you can get it cheaper. And if they don't carry it, like if you've got a local feed store, you might ask them and see if they can get it in, because they can probably get it in and order it much cheaper than buying it off of eBay. Farm and Hammer, South Louisiana. Well, yeah, it never really cools off too much in South Louisiana, does it? Sierra Tucker says, sounds like Kansas weather. Well, I'm not far from Kansas. It's about, 5 miles that way. It's not far at all. Samuel's in southwest Louisiana. You know, I used to live close to Louisiana. I lived in Nacogdoches, Texas for a while. Okay, Thomas's Poultry Collection. Can you feed your quail leftover budgie feed mix? Yes, you can. You probably don't want to make that their standard all the time diet, but you can mix that in with the regular pellets. For sure it would work. No problem, no reason you can't do that. What does my shirt say? There you go. Can you guys read that? It comes across like backwards, and no, it comes across straight on the video. There. Can you read that? I'm standing here kind of weird letting you read my shirt. Okay, so Tracy's saying this is where I need to move to the U.S. We don't have farm stores here. So where are you at, Tracy? That's unfortunate to not have farm stores. We've got them all over the place. Well, it depends on where you live in the U.S., but around here we've got them all over the place. Pretty close by. Southeastern Kansas, Sierra. What name a town you're near? Maybe it's not too far from me. Southeastern, let's see. Let me think. I'm not very good with geography sometimes. So southeastern, yeah, that'd be pretty close. I'm in southwest Missouri, so not bad. England. No farm supply stores in England? Surely they have farms there and people raise chickens and things, right? There's got to be something. Independence. Oh, so you're up by like Kansas City. Well, Sierra, I'm in Joplin, actually. Joplin, Missouri. So I know you've probably heard of it. May not know exactly where it is, but probably heard of it. Only for farmers, so you can't just go in there and shop. You can't go in there and ask them for, I mean, consider yourself a farmer maybe. You're raising quail, livestock, right? All right, William Williams says, what week is good to harvest my quail? What week? You mean like how old are they, I guess is what you're asking me? The best time to harvest your quail is probably going to be around 8 weeks old. That's generally when they first hit. There's a couple of reasons for that. They're pretty much maxing out their growing rate. Now, they will continue to grow after 8 weeks, but they don't grow as fast. So you're putting more food into them to get less growth out of them, if that makes sense. 8 weeks is usually about prime. The other reason I like to butcher at 8 weeks is because that's about the time they hit sexual maturity and the roosters start crowing. So it's about the time I'm like, shut up. Because when those roosters first start crowing, and you inevitably always have a ton of roosters in every hatch, it seems like, way more roosters than hens. You can hear them starting back there now. They just, man, when they start crowing, they just go to town, compete with each other, and just crow almost non-stop for like the first week and a half, 2 weeks. And so that's another reason why 8 weeks is a good week to butcher them at. Sometimes I'll let them go a little bit longer, maybe up to 10 to 12 weeks even. There's no reason you can't. They don't get tougher as they get older like a lot of animals do. And butchering full-grown quail works just as well. In fact, they have a little more fat on them, so it's a little bit better in some ways. It's just you're putting a lot more feed in them to grow them out that way. So really, 8 weeks old is about the best, really. Sierra says you've been to Joplin many times. Yeah, I imagine it's not terribly far. I've been to Kansas City plenty of times and Independence plenty of times too. All right, Samuel Saloom says, just got about 45 more quail yesterday. What is the best way to introduce them to my quail that I already have? Samuel, were you the one that was hitting me up? Somebody was hitting me up asking me that, and I said, join the live video. I can't remember if it was you or not. I talked to so many people, I get mixed up with who was who and where I talked to them. Okay, if you weren't the one that was asking me about that and I told you to join the live video, hopefully whoever it was, okay, it was you. Good. I'm glad you made it to the live video. Okay, so too much to type in the comments sections or in the messages, so I'm glad you joined this video. Introducing quail, when you're introducing them to each other, it can be really tricky. You're almost always going to have some fighting in there anytime you do it, no matter how you do it. There's a couple of different ways that you could do that. One way that really works well is if you take all your quail and move them to a new hutch, so it's a new surrounding for them, and it's new birds. And if you mix even amounts, like 10 existing birds, 10 new birds, and they're all existing with each other. So you're mixing 2 groups of 10 together in a completely new environment for both of them. That seems to work out pretty well. It helps a lot with minimizing the fighting. Another thing that you can do is, if you have 2 different cages, you can kind of take some of these birds out of this one and put them in that cage with those, and some of those birds out of that one and put them in this cage with this, but kind of keep them. Oh, did you guys see that? The light for the quail hutch came on. It's getting dark. Sorry, I got distracted, a little ADD. Take mix even amounts of the birds together. That kind of helps a lot too. What you really want to avoid is putting like 2 birds in with an existing group of like 15 birds, because they will almost always single those 2 birds out and just pick on them, sometimes kill them. Now, I have had pretty good luck. I don't know how old your birds are, but I've had pretty good luck with mixing younger birds with older birds. So like I have an existing breeding flock, and I take my birds when they're about 5 weeks old, so they're not sexually mature yet and they're not quite full grown yet, and I throw them in there with them, and usually that works okay. They don't really seem to pick on those guys too much, and if they do, it's just a very little bit. It's almost like they're just establishing their dominance, and then once those birds figure it out, they just leave them alone. That seems to have worked pretty well for me. Other things you can do is if you've got a big enough hutch, you can put the new birds in a cage within the hutch, so like just a wire box basically, put them in there to where the other birds can see them but cannot get into the cage with them, and leave them that way for about a week and a half or 2 weeks, and then open up that and let them out. And usually that gives them a chance to kind of get used to each other. So there's a couple of ideas on what you can do. Sometimes what you have to do is just throw them in there and hope they don't kill each other, and just wait and see what happens. Sometimes sometimes the fighting's not that bad. Sometimes they pick on each other, and they may even draw a little bit of blood, usually around the head, may even peck an eye out, but a lot of times that's it. They peck and I know that sounds horrible, peck an eye out, that's it. But you know, honestly, a quail without an eye, they get along just fine. I had one for the longest time that got an eye pecked out in the fighting, and then once they pecked its eye out, they just left it alone, no problem, and it lived for a long time, had no issues. And so anyway, that's a couple of things. All right, I missed some comments in here, so if I missed your comment, let me see where I can pick up here. Where did you acquire your breeding stock? I need some better bloodlines. Are you talking quail or rabbits? I'm assuming quail. The ones I have now I got from Kansas City Quail Farm. They are James Marie bloodlines. If you guys remember, I did a sponsored video for him, so it's my video, Where to Get Quail Eggs. If you go back and check that video, it has contact information from him. All right, where else we at here? Do you have any kits from your rabbits coming soon? I haven't started breeding them yet, so no, I don't have any kits for my rabbits coming real soon. I'm probably going to start up here in the next couple of weeks. Usually the first week of October or so, it's cooled off enough, and that's when I really kind of start back up. Sometimes in September, but good grief, it was hot this September. It felt more like summertime than it did fall, so I just waited. All right, Tracy Hedford says, the farm supply stores are way out in the countryside as for feed. I got to get that online. Ooh, that's unfortunate because I'm sure the shipping costs are high and it's a little bit expensive. You know, the place I'm buying feed from right now, and I don't know what you mean by way out in the country, the place I'm buying feed from now is about 25 miles away, my quail feed anyway, but it's way cheaper than it is buying locally. So I go and buy like 4 bags at a time. That usually lasts me a month and a half or 2 months, and then I just go back and buy 4 more bags whenever I get low. So that might be something to consider. It may be cheap enough to where it warrants going out and do that. I don't know, just a thought. What about splitting the cage in half? Oldest one is 9 weeks, younger 5 weeks. Well, you might be able to get away with throwing your 5-week-olds in there. I don't know about the 9-week-olds, maybe, maybe not. Honestly, what I do most of the time is I just throw them in there, and I usually have more than I need anyway. So I throw them in there, and if they really pick on one, I'll take that one out, and I may eat it for dinner or put it in its own cage by itself. Or if there's like 2 or 3 that are getting picked on, then I'll put them in their cage. But you could split the cage in half, put some wire right down the middle of the cage. That's not a bad idea. In fact, that's a pretty good idea. And leave them that way for a couple of weeks where they can kind of see each other, almost get to each other, but not quite. And then take it out after about 2 weeks and see how they do. That's a good thought. Clint says, good evening, running late in Oregon tonight. Well, hey, you made it. You're not too late. We're only 23 minutes into this. Glad you could make it. All right, Thomas's Poultry Collection says, do quail use nesting boxes? Yes and no. And what I mean by no is Coturnix quail anyway very seldom, if ever, go broody. So they just tend to kind of lay their eggs wherever. But if you put like a sandbox or something in there, they really like sandboxes. They'll get in there and dust bath in them. And they tend to lay most of their eggs in the sandbox. They don't really group them together and lay on them. I mean, it happens from time to time, but it's very, very rare. So they don't really use a nesting box, so to speak, but they will lay most of their eggs in a sandbox if you provide them with one. All right, what else we got? Sierra Tucker, rabbits. Are you talking about breeding stock for rabbits, Sierra? I think that's what your question was. I'm sorry, the comments are coming so fast. Sometimes when you're answering one of my questions, you're going to have to say, you know, kind of preface that and tell me what you were talking about before. But I think it was breeding stock is what you were asking me for rabbits. I got them from a local rabbit breeder. I just kind of watch Craigslist and things whenever I need a rabbit. You kind of develop relationships with people. Sometimes people have some pretty good bloodlines, and I'll just go buy a rabbit from them whenever I need one. I don't have to buy breeding stock very often. I keep 2 does and a male, and usually a couple of years they'll last me. And then when I have to go buy new breeding stock, I just start looking for a new rabbit. And I try to time it to where it hits like in the summer. We also have a local poultry swap that happens the first Saturday of every month. And if I'm looking for a rabbit, I can go down there and I can almost always find a rabbit down there. So that's usually where I get my breeding stock. And Nell Hernandez says, when did you start breeding rabbits? You mean whenever I first started breeding rabbits for meat in my backyard here? Was 6-7 years ago, I think. 7? Yeah, I think it was 7 years ago when I got divorced from my first wife, because there's no way she would have let me breed rabbits. They're too stinky, you know. But so whenever that happened, whenever she left me and she decided she didn't want to be a Christian anymore and went and found somebody that wasn't a Christian, then I started breeding rabbits and started doing some of those things that I had always done when I was a kid. I grew up in kind of a country family, so I just kind of went back to those roots. Started really I always grew the garden, but that's when I started the quail, that's when I started the rabbits, started getting those things going again. I had rabbits when I was a kid. Never had quail before. That was a new thing whenever I was about 7 years ago. But I had chickens at one time when I was younger. Well, I didn't have them. My grandparents had them, but I spent a lot of time around them. So in a way, you know, it's kind of new. In a way, it's not new. I've always had animals, though, and I've always bred animals. Everything from, I bred reptiles, frogs, lizards, lots of amphibians and reptiles, hamsters, gerbils, mice, rats. What else have I bred? It's been ferrets. I bred ferrets one time. Boy, all kinds of things I've bred. All right, how do I get bunnies to stop fighting? Don't keep them together. That's the best way. Keep them separate in separate cages. Best way to keep them from fighting. Hopefully that answers the question for you. I hope that doesn't come across smart aleck, but really, rabbits in the wild are solitary creatures for the most part. They don't live in big groups and big colonies. They live by themselves. You can do colonies. There's nothing wrong with doing colonies, but if you get males together especially, they tend to want to fight, and I think it's best to keep them in separate cages. All right, Elias says, Chris, how old are you? You want to guess at it? Guess how old I am. Some of you guys probably know, because I did a video a while back about Groundhog Day, which is right about my birthday, and told you guys how old I was, I think. And what else we got? The Average Fisherman says, I just got 4 pedigree silver fox rabbits from a guy who bought them and decided that rabbit raising was not for him. He sold them to me for $10 each, and the 2 older ones are just over a year. Boy, that sounds like a pretty good deal. Silver fox are good rabbits. I've got one, and I like her a lot. And make good meat rabbits. They've got nice fur, so if you're looking for a fur yield on them, that's a good rabbit for that as well. And $10, that's a pretty good deal on them. All right, Tracy Hedford says, you got to watch the size of your wire if you're going to put 5-week-old next to the 9-week-olds, because they can get their heads through an inch size. That's true. That's a good point there, Tracy. Yeah, I use 1/4-inch hardware cloth on all my cages, so that's not a big deal for me. But you're right. If you're using 1/2-inch wire or anything like that, and you put 5 weeks old, they can squeeze through them and they can get out of it. So you need to be careful with that. Anel Hernandez says, you like my shirt. Well, thank you. It's one of my favorite shirts, too. Diplomatic Diplomer says, what do you do if chicks in a group of quail chicks keep... Okay. What do you do if a group of chicks in a group of quail chicks keep killing each other? Every time I see one attacking another, I remove them, but they are all attacking each other, all of them. Okay, so these are chicks. These are young birds attacking each other. I'm assuming that's what you're saying. That's pretty rare. That doesn't usually happen, especially if they've all kind of incubated together, been in the brooder box together, grown up together. I would kind of lean towards protein in your food. Look at your protein level and make sure that it's like 24% or above. If your protein level's too low, then they can start really getting aggressive with each other because they're looking for more protein. They don't have any insects to forage or anything to do that. So that's my thought. All right. Tracy Hedford thinks I'm 38. You're close. I'm a little older than 38, though. Samuel says, you have hardware cloth? Well, again, what I usually do with the quail whenever I'm mixing them, I just throw them together and I hope it works out. And usually it does. Sometimes they'll kill one, or sometimes they'll maim it bad enough that I'll just put it out of its misery. But usually they just kind of beat it up a little bit, and then they just kind of leave them off. All right, or leave them alone, I should say. All right. Diplomatic Diplomer says, how did you come up with the name Slightly Rednecked? Why not Totally Rednecked? Well, you know, oh, look at that. A bunch of people saying 42. You guys are very close. Bird Breeder says 41. I'm actually 43, I think. 43. I was born in 74. Does that make me 43? This is 2000. Yes, I've already had my birthday this year. I'm 43. Had to do the math to make sure. All right, so, where was I? How did I come up with the name Slightly Rednecked? Okay, I'll tell you this story. I've always said for the longest time, I grew up in southwest Missouri, was not born here, but raised here in southwest Missouri. And I've always said that Missouri, especially this part, southwest Missouri, is almost southern, but not quite. We do a lot of things that are southern, but not exactly southern. So what I mean by that is, like, we eat biscuits and gravy. We eat, some people around here eat collard greens. It's not a real common thing. Poke greens, that kind of stuff. We squirrel hunt. We do, you know, a lot of those kinds of things. Some people around here do, some people don't. But at the same time, we're not completely southern. We don't really say y'all and fixin' to, and there's a lot of other southern traditions. We're not as big on sweet tea and, you know, some of those kinds of things. So I always said we're almost southern but not quite, and I always kind of thought of myself as almost redneck but not quite. I work in a corporate job. I wear a suit and tie. Well, I did for years wear a suit and tie to work. Ties have kind of gone out of fashion, so I don't wear a tie anymore, but occasionally we have client visits or whatnot we do. But yet I raise quail and meat rabbits in my backyard. I hunt, I fish, I do a lot of those things. So I'm really just kind of slightly rednecked, not completely rednecked. Hopefully that makes sense. Tracy Hedford says, you guys say hardware cloth, we say welded wire mesh. I'm sure there's a lot of things we say that you say differently. It's kind of funny how, even in the United States, I know you're in, I think, Tracy, you're in England, right? You were the one that was talking earlier about being in England. You know, definitely different dialects. We all speak English and we can understand each other, but yeah, it's different. The things you call different things there. And exactly like what I was just talking about us being almost southern. I spent a lot of years in Texas. I spent about 8 years in Nacogdoches, Texas, and that's southern. Very much southern. And it's funny the things that they call the little thing you push around at the grocery store that you put your groceries into. What do you guys call that? Give me some comments. Let me know. Because I'm curious. That's one way you can tell who's southern, who's not. Is anybody paying attention? A grocery cart. Okay, you call it a cart. Bird Breeder calls it a cart or a carriage, a shopping cart. You guys must be from the north. Nathan says shopping cart. Yeah, that must be, you must be from the north or the Midwest. Who else? A buggy. There's a southerner right there. Average fisherman. You call it a buggy, do you? So that was a weird thing for me when I went to Texas, because we call it a shopping cart around here. But in Texas, southern, they call it a buggy. To me, a buggy is what, like, Amish people drive. They have the horse hooked up to it. Funny. But that's just different dialects, what you get in different places. Here's another one. What do you call... I better take this out of the can because somebody's going to give me a smart aleck answer. What do you call this right here? I know it's Coke, but what do you call it? Is it soda? Is it pop? Is it... What do you call it? Soda. Okay, that's a northern thing, right? Your average fisherman says a buggy. New York Tigress says soda. Around here, it's usually, it could be either one. It could be soda or it could be pop. Now, in the South, it's called Coke, right? It doesn't matter what kind it is. It doesn't matter if it's Dr. Pepper. It doesn't matter if it's Pepsi. It doesn't matter if it's called Coke in the South, right? That's, in Texas it was anyway. You go to a grocery or a restaurant, you say, Coke, I want a Coke, and they say, what kind do you want? Oh, I'll have a Dr. Pepper. You know? I always thought that was kind of funny, too. All right, I got a question here coming in from Elias. Sorry, I got you guys all... Somebody calls it tonic? Years ago called it tonic. Okay. That's a new one for me. All right, got all off topic on something else, but that was kind of fun to talk about for a second. Elias says, Chris, is it a good idea to put the new quails with your flock in the night so they wake up with them? You know, that's not a bad idea. I think that's probably a pretty good idea. I don't know how much of a difference that actually makes, but the logic makes sense. I usually, like I said, what I usually do is just throw them in there, and usually I get a couple that get all kinds of beat up, but generally they'll calm right down, and those birds usually do just fine. I very seldom have them actually kill one or even peck an eye out. They usually just kind of peck them on the head a little bit, and maybe they'll draw a little bit of blood, but it's really, I mean, it sounds cruel to just leave them in that situation, but it seems to do just fine. It seems to work out well. They don't really seem to be suffering from that. They just seem to kind of, I mean, they just seem to be fine. In fact, they continue to lay eggs through all that. Doesn't seem to bother them all that much at all. You can, I know there are some people that trim the quail's beaks. As they get older, their beaks kind of grow out a little bit, almost like fingernails. You can kind of see the white at the end of their beak and get very pointy. A lot of people will trim those off with like a pair of scissors. I don't do that because I usually don't keep my quail that long. I usually don't keep the breeders more than about 1.5 years. And then what I do is I take a new hatch and I butcher all my breeders and I throw my grow outs in there, and those become my new breeders. So I don't really mess with that. All right, Samuel says, quail need about 14 hours of sunlight to lay right. My older quail are 9 weeks and not laying. Do I need to get a light for them? Well, you're mostly right. I think you're right. I just think what you're saying is a little bit off. They don't need 14 hours of sunlight. They need 14 hours of light. And it doesn't really matter what spectrum it is. You can see my lights shining back there in the background. It's getting pretty dark here. That's my light over my quail hutch right there. And I know you guys can't see it well enough to see how bright it is or how dim it is, but it does. It's not that super bright light, and it comes on right at dusk. It lasts for about 4 hours or so. It keeps them laying all night long. So yeah, if your quail are about 9 weeks old and you don't have an external light for them, you probably need to get one, especially this time of year, because it's getting, the nights or the days are getting shorter, and they will start laying again. But then again, at 9 weeks, they're just now starting to lay anyway. So just be patient with them. Even if you add a light, it may take them a week or two to start laying regularly. Okay, Thomas's Poultry Collection says, is it better to buy quail as chicks or as adults? It really kind of depends on a couple of things. You can get them as chicks a lot cheaper, so there's a benefit in that. But then again, if you buy them as adults, they're already starting to lay, or they're getting close to starting to lay, but they're going to cost you more. So around here anyway, usually chicks go for about $1 for every week, however old they are. So a week old for $1, 2 weeks for $2, 3 weeks for $3, 4 weeks for $4, and then usually $5 for anything 5 weeks or older. So if you can find, you can find 6-week-old quail for $5 a piece, and then you're waiting 2 weeks for them to start laying. Whereas you could get, like, let's say 5 of those for $25, which is what I sold, 5 of mine for $25. Or for that same $25, you could get 25-week-old quail and grow them out for 6 weeks or 7 weeks and start getting eggs out of them. So, there's really no definite answer to that. It just kind of depends on what you're looking for. If it's, if it's going into fall and you're not going to be incubating or anything like that, or if, 6 weeks before winter or before spring, and that's when you want to wait for, to start incubating eggs, then why not buy babies and just let them grow out for 6 weeks? I don't know. There's a couple different thoughts on that. I can't really give you a definite answer. Clint says, how many quail do you have? You said you go through 2 bags in a month, right? Well, no, I mean, it just depends, really. Right now, I think I've got about 60 quail. My numbers go up and down a lot. I'm actually doing some, studying on that right now, and I'm going to do 2 different videos coming up. One, I'm just about ready to shoot, and that's like, that's going to give you an idea of how much food it requires just to kind of maintain my quail. I think I've got some pretty good figures on that, but I don't want to spit it out until I actually get that confirmed. The other one I'm going to do is I've got, eggs in the incubator right now. When they hatch out, I'm going to really monitor their food intake really closely. So I'll be able to tell you how much food it takes to get them up to 8 weeks old. So I'll do 2 different videos on those coming up in the upcoming weeks. But right now I think I've got 60 quail. I'm pretty close to 60. Samuel says you got 4-week-old quail for 75 cents a piece. That's the cheapest I've ever seen them go for. Never seen them go for less than $1. Thomas's Poultry Collection says, thanks for your help. Hey, thanks for watching the videos. Thanks for joining us here. I appreciate it, and I'm glad I got to help you out a little bit. We sell our day-old 6 for $20. So what does that come out? That's like $3, a little over, like $3.50 a piece, isn't it? That's I mean, if you can get that out of them, heck yeah, that's a pretty good deal. The market's too saturated around here. There's not, you don't always see quail for sale, but you see them for sale regularly enough that nobody's willing to pay that much for baby quail, unless you got something really special. Who knows? Even the jumbos, for a while, the jumbos were, the problem is you got like just kind of a, I mean, this isn't a huge this is not a huge area around here. And there's only so many people that are raising quail. So whenever somebody brings something in like jumbo quail, for a little while those were going for a premium. They were going for, well, for a little while everybody was calling everything jumbos when they weren't. But the true jumbos were going for a premium. They were going for like $7 or $8 a bird for full-size birds, where the others were going for like $5. But now everybody in the area's got jumbo birds because they all bought jumbo birds and they're breeding them. So, you know, there's just not really much of a market for it anymore. All right. Average Fisherman says, I have to say thank you for finding an idea of finding a feed mill close to where I live, because I have no clue. We had one just the next town over, and it's saving me lots of money. Yeah, local food mill or local feed mill is the way to go. I've got a feed store. It's on my way to work. I drive right past it on my way to work. Great people, love them. They're fantastic, super nice. I buy my rabbit feed from them because they've got the best deal on rabbit feed. I can get a 50-pound bag of 16% rabbit feed for like 16 bucks, I think. That's the best deal I've found on rabbit feed. But my quail feed, they need, let's see, what is their, I want to say it's like $20, almost $20 a bag for quail feed. Whereas I go to the local feed mill, just, you know, like I said, 20 miles away in the next town over, and I can get 50-pound bags for like $11. So it's, I mean, it's like half the price. It's a way better deal. All right, Bird Breeder says, we have 60 now, 6 days old, and we have a buyer all for $2 each, $120. That's a pretty good deal. I don't have that consistent of a market around here at all. I posted some on Craigslist. I got one guy that called me, wanted to buy some, wanted to know how many I had, and it was like nighttime. I'm like, well, I got to go out and count how many hens I got, and I'll have to wait till morning. Got back a hold of him and let him know, and he never called me back. And then I got another guy that called me off that ad, and he's the one that's going to buy the 5 birds tomorrow. But they're going for $5 each. Okay, Clint says you need 60 quail for your family's needs. You guys eat a bunch of eggs, huh? Or you're thinking about from incubating and breeding them out to meat birds. I'll tell you what, we've got, I mean, we eat a lot of eggs, not a lot, but we eat, you know, quail egg omelets on a fairly regular basis. And my birds, I don't have 60, you know, layers. I have like 20, I get about, I've got about 15 or so layers. And I get about 15 eggs a day. And we can't keep up with the eggs. We can't eat them all. Okay, Bird Breeder says we bought our starter flocks as eggs, $5 per dozen. Yeah, eggs around here usually go for about $4 or $5 a dozen. 70 hatched, 56. Very happy with quail in general. Yeah, quail are pretty easy. You can't hardly beat them. So, I mean, super easy to take care of. You can keep them in cages, very little effort. I have to agree with you. I love the quail. Harley Hackney says, baby rabbits in the yard at the office. Oh, it's funny you mentioned that. I did a video because this was like a year and a half ago almost. We went out and there was a rabbit nest at the office. Some of you guys may have seen this video. And I just did a video on that. I just thought, hey, this would be a cool thing to share on my channel. So we went out and we looked at the baby rabbits. They were only like a week old at the time when I found them. And I came back for a couple of weeks. Maybe they were 2 weeks old, I don't know. But I came back for a couple of weeks and just showed them every day how they grew. And talked about, you know, the myth of the mother rabbit abandoning her babies if you handle them. And posted that up online. That thing went, I mean, it was like nothing. It got some decent views on it. And then like a year later, this spring, it just went nuts. It got like 300,000 views on it over the last couple of months. And lots of comments. Lots of people hate me, think I'm a terrible person for handling these baby rabbits. And other people thought I was great, did a great job with the video, who knows. I don't let the haters bother me. They can call me all the names they want. I don't let their opinion of me bother me at all. Yep, your boys love eggs and meat. Yeah, if you're feeding especially teenage boys, you probably need all the quail you can get. Bird Breeder says, very happy to have found your videos and have watched every quail video you've done. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate that, and I'm glad that you found them helpful. I'm getting to a point where I'm kind of having to repeat some of my old quail videos. For the longest time, I didn't want to do that, and then I realized, you know, I get these new people, and YouTube's not the best for, like, indexing old content and for people going back through and being able to watch old videos. It doesn't organize them real well. It's not an easy way to organize them. It's not YouTube's fault. It's a great platform, but it's not easy to organize them in a way. So I thought, you know what, I guess it's not that big a deal if I recover some old topics, because I get the same questions a lot, on video, on topics I've already addressed. So I thought, well, I'll just readdress some of those topics. But if you guys got other things that you want to see, like I said, come into the videos, especially these live broadcasts after it posts, after we get off the live broadcast, because the comments section where you're commenting, it disappears after the broadcast is over. I can't see that. So if you wait till the video posts after that and then come back and leave a comment on what you'd like to see in future videos, I take that stuff down, and I will definitely it helps me a lot because it gives me content, lets me know what you guys want to see, and I do my best to deliver on those things. Okay, Clint says 18% rabbit. You get 18% rabbit food for $14.50 for a 50-pound bag. That's not too bad. That's pretty. I think that's a little better deal than what I'm getting on mine. Oh, okay. You confused me, Clint. You said 3- and 4-year-old, plus I watch my ex-wife's 1-year-old all the time. You're talking about your kids being that old. Well, they're still going to eat a lot of food, though. Well, at least they want a lot of food, and they don't necessarily eat it all, do they? I should start a quail cooking show, you said. Just try it out, maybe see how it goes. I don't know if I could do a quail cooking show. I don't know if that I could produce a video a week, quail cooking. Maybe I'll just start mixing those videos into my regular videos. I've had a lot of people ask me about quail cooking. Who knows? We'll see. Tigress, what are you agreeing with? Are you agreeing with, oh, Andrew, I'm glad you made it. Don't worry about getting here late. You're not late. We're just, I guess you're almost late. We're 46 minutes into it, huh? Cook something for you. I've done a couple of cooking videos. They weren't really that good, but that was back when I was fairly new to doing videos. I think I've got a little bit better. The problem with doing it inside is the lighting and the sound is just so terrible. And I don't have the fancy equipment or any of that kind of stuff, so I'm just kind of work with what I've got. But who knows? I'll try it out again the next time I cook quail, which will probably be pretty soon because these guys are getting pretty close to a freezer camp. And maybe I'll do a couple of videos for you guys. I could grill them. I have grilled some outside. They turned out pretty good. I just barbecued some not too long ago. That's the first time I barbecued them. Not bad. They were pretty good. Best quail for bird dog training, LMN, snowy whites, or bob whites. Well, it depends, I think, on what you're wanting to train them for. If you live in this area, then it's probably going to be bob whites, and I would say bob whites are probably the best ones to train them with. I don't think Coturnics really are great. They don't fly very well, so I don't think they make good training. But you know what? I'm not a dog trainer. I'm not a bird hunter that much. I've hunted some quail, but I'm not a bird dog trainer. Let's put it that way. So I'm not really sure I'm the best qualified to answer that for you. I don't know. Can I use vegetable vinegar instead of apple cider vinegar in the rabbit water? Vegetable vinegar? I'm not sure what... I'm thinking about this. Do you mean just like regular white distilled vinegar? If you're talking about regular white distilled vinegar, I'm not sure what vegetable vinegar is unless it's that. But if that's what you're talking about, not really a good option. The whole point of using apple cider vinegar, you want to use apple cider vinegar with the mother, it's that fermentation, the mother in it, that provides the beneficial antibiotics. It's like yogurt. What else? Yogurt, kefir, I can't ever pronounce that word. Yogurt, buttermilk. What else is like that? Creme fraiche, which is like a sour cream kind of fermented thing. Sauerkraut, all those things are lacto-fermented, and because of that lacto-ferment, they have all kinds of good properties for our bodies. Apple cider vinegar is the same way, and that's one of the reasons of using it in the apple's water, is it does provide, or the apple's water, the rabbit's water. It does provide them with some beneficial properties. It's not, probably don't want to put just white distilled vinegar in there. Honestly, I don't use apple cider vinegar very often. I mean, occasionally I'll put some in there, but it's really more of a pain than it's worth to me, and I don't really think it... People talk about apple cider vinegar like it's magical, you got this whole group of people that every natural herb is magical, every apple cider vinegar is magical, and those things are good. I love herbs. I love plantains, one of my favorites. It's great for bug bites and scrapes and all those kinds of things, and it grows in just about every yard around. But you know what? It's really it's not that much better than like anti-itch, whatever over the counter. It's not like it's it's good. It's not like it's got some kind of magical properties to it. So don't buy into all the apple cider vinegar hype out there. It's not bad. It's good, and it is good for you. So is yogurt, so is sauerkraut, so is all that kind of stuff. There's nothing magical about it. All right. Diplomatic Diplomer says, so I found a baby quail broody sitting on an egg. Eventually the egg hatched, and the chick is healthy. Other quail are starting to pick on the chick. I'm going to remove it. Will that affect either the... And you stopped. I'm guessing either... Will that affect either the mother or the baby chick? First of all, congratulations on that. It doesn't happen very often where a quail goes broody and hatches her own egg, and actually successfully hatches her own egg. So congratulations on that. I think removing the quail is going to be fine. The baby, I don't think it's going to affect either one of them. I think you're going to be fine. Tigress says it is magical. I'm going to argue about it. Again, I'm not saying it's not good. I'm not saying there's no health benefits to it. But, you know, you hear these claims like you drink apple cider vinegar and it's going to cure whatever is wrong with you. You know, whatever. It's good for you, and there's no harm in it, and it's a good thing to add to your diet, but it's not, like, quite as great as everybody makes it out to be. All right. Guy Whalen says, you mentioned integrating new birds into a flock earlier. I'm planning on buying 10 to 12 new birds soon, and I want to put them in the same cage as my existing cover. I only have 4 birds now. The new birds are 6 weeks old, and the final roux to hen ratio will be 1 to 4. The enclosure is 8x2. Any tips in particular? Okay, let me look at this. 10 to 12 new birds, putting them in the same cage as your existing... Oh, I think that's existing, yeah, okay, gotcha. You have 4 birds now, you're going to be adding 10 to 12 birds to them. You might just try throwing them all together and seeing how they do. Watch your 4 older birds, because chances are the 10 to 12 will pick on them more than they'll pick on the new 10 to 12. But just watch them and see, and if they don't have any problems, you don't have any problems, great. If you do start having some problems, a couple of things you can do is, first of all, just let them get over it. We kind of talked about this earlier. I tend to do that. Just let them kind of fight it out a little bit. Sometimes they'll peck a spot on their head that makes them bleed a little bit or anything like that, but usually they get over that. Usually it doesn't really get that serious. If you're afraid it's going to get real serious, or you don't like to see that, then you might try putting a cage inside there. I don't know if you heard all that talk earlier, but putting like those 4 birds you've got now inside a cage and putting that in the other cage so they can see each other and almost get to each other, but they can't quite get to each other. Leave them that way for about 2 weeks and then let them out into the rest of the flock and see how that works. Or, again, the other tip is move them all to a new hutch. So, or take 5 of your new birds, mix them in with your 4 other birds, let them get all used to each other, and then mix the rest of them in with them. So, you know, those are a couple of options you can try. Don't know the best way. What I usually do is just throw them all together and watch and see if they make it. That's what I usually do, and usually I don't have too many problems. They will fight. They will pick on each other a little bit. I knew what you meant by covey. I just couldn't get the word out. Happens to me sometimes. Happened to me with jigsaw when I was building the quail hutch. If you guys watch that video, I'm like, what is that saw called? It's not a coping saw. It's the power version. Couldn't think of the word jigsaw. You know? Anyway, I hope that helps you out a little bit. Hopefully that gives you some ideas. Okay, Tracy Hedford says, did you find it difficult to your first call, and does it get easier in time? Well, you know what? That's a good question, Tracy. I didn't really find it difficult myself, but again, I grew up in a country family. We hunted, we fished all my life. I vaguely remember shooting my first squirrel when I was, I want to say 8 or 9 years old. No, I must have been younger than that. I wasn't much younger than that, though. And I shot it with a pellet gun and skinned it, and we had it for dinner that night. But I vaguely remember that. It's just something that I've always done. I've always hunted, I've always fished, I've always, you know, catch frogs, crawdads, all those kinds of things, and always known that's where my food comes from. So to me, it wasn't a new thing to do my first call, if that makes sense. I will say, yes, it does get easier, though. And you just got to kind of... One thing that I think helps a lot of people is, if you're a meat eater anyway, realizing that if I'm not killing my food, I'm paying somebody else to kill my food for me. So it's not like you're really removing yourself from that at all. You're still eating the meat. Somebody else is doing the killing for you. And sometimes just making that connection in your head, knowing that I'm going to be what's the word? I'm going to be as kind as, word block again. Anyway, as kind as I can be. I'm going to try to make that thing not suffer any more than it has to do. And I'm not so sure somebody else is going to do that. Sometimes that will kind of help with that. It's just kind of a mindset thing you have to do. I can not really relate to that, but kind of can. I understand. I don't like to see an animal suffer, even though it doesn't bother me to shoot a deer, to shoot a squirrel, to butcher a rabbit, to butcher a quail, or any of those kinds of things. It bothers me significantly to watch something suffer. I don't want to see it suffer. I want it to be quick and as painless as possible, and put it out of its misery. And I want it to go to good use. I don't want it to be wasted. So in a sense, I can kind of relate to that. All right, getting close. 55 minutes here. We're gonna have to start wrapping this up pretty quick here. Let's see. Any advice for getting rid of what I'm assuming is a fox? I am missing 2 ducks, 2 guineas, and 1 chicken. One, how they are there, the nick's gone. One night they're there, the nick's gone. Various times of the day that they have gone missing. Yeah, if they're just completely disappearing, you're probably right. It probably is a fox. That would be my guess. Foxes, you could get a trail cam out there and confirm it, but that's not going to get rid of it. I've talked about predator control a lot. I don't have huge problems with predators here, but what I would do is set up an electric fence wire around the perimeter of your wherever you're keeping your animals, and take aluminum foil, little, I don't know, half-inch long strips, or half-inch wide strips about an inch long. Smear some peanut butter on one side of that, fold it over that electric wire, and do that about every 3 feet or so, all the way around that. And what's going to happen is when that predator comes in, fox, whatever, everything loves peanut butter. It's going to smell that peanut butter, go to that peanut butter, lick that, and bam, that electric fence is going to hit him. That's probably going to run him off and keep him away. That's my best bet. All right, tried that, Andrew, and nothing showed up. He is a sneaky bugger. Foxes can be that way. Elias, are you asking what a fox is? I think that's what you're asking. You probably don't have fox there, do you? Good night, bird breeder. I'm getting ready to check off here in just a few minutes, but I get wrapped up in the comments, and I find it hard to pull myself away. Samuel wants to know if I've ever thought about trying to raise ducks. Yeah, I've been talking about that for a while. I'm thinking about raising ducks pretty soon. I've just got to get I've got to get a fence built for them, and an enclosure, all that kind of stuff built for them. And once I do, I will probably get some ducks and add them. So you guys will probably start seeing some duck videos once that happens. Because I'll tell you what, there's not much better than a fried egg sandwich with a duck egg. Man, that's fantastic. Because the best part of a fried egg sandwich is when you cut it open and that yolk just runs everywhere, and a duck egg has a yolk like that big around. It's awesome. All right, the comments are slowing down, so it may be time for me to check out of here and go get some things done before it's bedtime and time to get up and go to work all over again. Thank you guys so much for joining tonight. As always, it's been a great time conversing with you guys. Got a little bit off topic on some things. Of course, we don't have a topic scheduled, so I don't guess we really got off topic. And, yep, I will see you guys all next week. Good night to all of you. Thank you so much for joining. As always, God bless each and every one of you guys, and I hope you all have a good night. I will see you guys later. Take care.